Well,
Gerald,
here's my question, William. I do have a question. What's the difference between this impeachment inquiry and an actual impeachment? Because you can't move forward with an impeachment until the full House votes. And right now, the Republicans probably don't have those votes. That's what everybody's saying, right? So what's the difference between what they're doing here, legally, constitutionally, and what they would be doing for a full impeachment? I guess that's the distinction people need.
yeah. Well, under the Constitution, the Congress, has the power to oversee the executive branch, and so they've got the power of the purse, for example. And what's happening here is they are not actually impeaching the president, because that process is something much different. You're actually impeaching the president, and then in the Senate you actually hold a trial. And what this is the House of Representatives in particular, under its rules, exercising their legislative oversight authority, I would suggest, and they're not actually doing an impeachment. What they're doing, and it gives them political cover, I guess, with their constituents that want them to be proceeding forward. But at the same time, it doesn't actually move. It's not moving the process forward, because you're not actually impeaching, anybody. You're just, and again, this is just part of what the House of Representatives, through its own rules, it's kind of a preliminary process, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
Right. So let me ask you this. One of the other things I hear all the time, there's no evidence. The Democrats saying it all day. There's no evidence whatsoever. You mean like the second impeachment of Donald Trump, where they didn't even call witnesses or even present evidence? They didn't even bother. They just basically went to a vote. But we have a breaking story from John Solomon at Just the News yesterday, saying that in 2015, then Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter met with Devon Archer and a banker from Kazakhstan at the U.S. Naval Observatory, which of course is the vice president's 9,000 square foot mansion residence, right? So they all met together. So for Joe Biden to say, well, I've never had anything to do with my son's business dealings, of course he did. They met with a banker from Kazakhstan at the Naval Observatory. I mean, that's just from yesterday. The evidence is all over the place, isn't it?
Well, and here's the interesting thing, Steve. Gerald Ford, we know him as the president. But before that, he was, in the House of Representatives. And, he said that, whatever Congress decides is what, impeachment means. And, to your question, to your point, is what you just described a high crime and misdemeanor? Some academics out there, and I hate it when we're looking at academics, because I'd rather look at what the framers said themselves. They look at the word misdemeanor. Well, it could include things like that. It's got to be just a criminal violation. And that's a pretty high standard if it's just a criminal violation. But if it was just a criminal violation, then why didn't the framers, just say a crime instead of listing all these things? And so they could have just said a crime. So the text implies, I think, something in between a crime, and it actually could be a crime. That could be enough to impeach a person. But something less than a crime probably is permitted as well. And so I don't think you should say that it's only what the sitting Congress at the time says it should be. But anyway.